The cold didn't bother Vincent Rowe. It hadn't for years. He had grown numb, not just to temperature, but to people, to life, to everything that used to make him human. It was late November in River Spring, a small American city always brushed with fog in winter. Vincent had just stepped out of his building, a modern glass tower with his name engraved in gold above the doors, when he saw her. At first, he thought it was a pile of trash bags tucked in the alley behind the dumpster. But as he approached the sleek black car waiting for him, he paused. There was movement. A pair of eyes, big, brown, and afraid. A girl, maybe 10, maybe younger, curled up under an old gray hoodie. Her knees were pressed to her chest, her face hollow, smeared with soot. She didn't beg. She didn't even flinch, just stared. Vincent turned away. He wasn't in the business of saving anyone. Not anymore. But his driver, Martin, had noticed too. "Boss," Martin said gently, "should I call someone?" Vincent didn't answer. He slid into the back seat, pulled out his phone, and began checking stock updates. But the girl's eyes followed him, even when the car pulled off. That night, Vincent couldn't sleep. He stared at the ceiling of his massive, silent mansion. The fireplace flickered in the corner. His housekeeper, Marta, had brought him chamomile tea, but it sat untouched. His mind, usually filled with mergers, tech reports, and terminal cancer scans, now had one uninvited thought. The girl. He didn't know why it haunted him. Maybe because she hadn't asked for help. Maybe because her silence reminded him of Elena. His daughter had died 10 years ago, a car crash that shattered everything. After his divorce and her death, he buried himself in work, became the youngest tech billionaire in the country, built a fortune, a fortress. But what was it worth? Nothing could buy back the past. The next morning, he was back at the office. But before entering, he walked around the back. The alley was empty. No trash bags, no hoodie, no eyes watching. "Probably moved on," he muttered. He picked it up. Inside, written in shaky handwriting. "My name is Amira. I don't steal. I just need a place to sleep. I'm not bad. I'm just trying to survive." Vincent stared at the page. Something cracked inside his chest. A soundless break. That evening, he found her again. 2 blocks down near the train station. She was digging through a trash can, trying to find half-eaten food. "Hey!" he called out. She froze, then bolted. But she didn't run fast enough. He caught up in seconds. "I'm not going to hurt you," he said, panting slightly. She squinted. "You're the man with the shiny car." "Yes." "Are you the police?" "No." "Then what do you want?" "I found your notebook," he said. "Amira, right?" She looked down, ashamed. "I'm not stealing," she whispered. "I know." Silence. "I have a warm car," he said finally. "A full dinner in the back seat. You can come eat. That's all." She didn't answer. But after a few seconds, her tiny legs moved. She followed. Inside the car, she ate like someone who hadn't tasted food in days, which Vincent realized was probably true. Martin watched from the mirror, eyes wide. But Vincent just nodded for him to drive. "Where are we going?" Amira asked. "My place," Vincent said. Her head jerked. "You're gonna sell me or something?" "No." He looked her in the eye. "You'll be safe, I promise." She didn't believe him. He could see it, but she said nothing more. Just kept eating. The mansion was more glass and stone than home, perched on a cliffside, built for power, not comfort. When they entered, Marta gasped. "Sir?" she asked, glancing at the girl. "She's staying," Vincent said simply. "Prepare a guest room." "For how long?" "I don't know." Amira looked overwhelmed by the giant staircase, the chandeliers, the glowing fireplace. She walked like she didn't belong. And she didn't. Not yet. That night, she slept in a real bed, clean sheets, a plush blanket, a lavender pillow. She didn't cry, but she trembled. Vincent saw it on the hallway camera footage. She curled into a tight ball, eyes wide open for hours. She didn't trust the safety. It was too foreign. The next morning, she sat at the breakfast table, poking at eggs and toast. Vincent sipped coffee, reading the paper. Marta hovered nervously. "Where's your family?" he asked gently. Amira didn't look up. "Gone." Gone how? Mom died. Dad left. I was with my aunt, but she didn't want me, so I left. You left? She said I was too much trouble, so I went away. Didn't want to be a burden. Vincent's fingers curled around the mug. Too much trouble. A burden. Words like those echo for life. By the end of the week, Amira had a new toothbrush, new pajamas, a school application in progress. Vincent had never filled out a school form in his life, but now he was learning about catch-up classes, trauma counseling, and meal plans. He hated it, but he did it. Sometimes she smiled, small, quick smiles that disappeared like snowflakes. And sometimes she asked, questions. Why are you helping me? He didn't know how to answer. Maybe because he couldn't save Elena. Maybe because no one had helped him when he needed it most. Maybe because he was dying and he didn't want to leave this world the way he lived, cold and empty. One night she handed him a crayon drawing. It showed a stick figure in a suit holding hands with a little girl. Above them, a sun and clouds, and a line in big letters. Thank you for not being scared of me. He stared at it for a long time. No one's ever said that to me, he murmured. Amira shrugged. Most people look at me like I'm dirty, like I'll steal something. I don't, Vincent said. I know. Late that night, he looked at her medical forms. Malnutrition, mild asthma, stress-related tics, a fractured rib from months ago. He called his doctor. Do whatever it takes, he said. To treat her? To protect her. Vincent still went to meetings, still wore sharp suits, still signed multi-million-dollar deals. But his mind was elsewhere, like when he saw a pink scarf in a shop window and bought it without thinking. Or when he found himself looking up bedtime storybooks, or when Amira called him Mr. Vincent, and his heart twisted every time. One day she asked the hardest question yet. If I'm not your daughter, why do you care so much? Vincent sat down beside her on the garden bench. Because, he said, voice trembling, I think you were meant to be. Vincent Rowe had built a life around silence. No laughter, no music, no visitors. The mansion on the hill was vast but hollow, filled with expensive art and haunted air. And now, somehow, a little girl with scraped knees and hollow cheeks was inside it. Her name, he learned reluctantly over dinner, was Amira. You got parents? He asked, not looking up from his plate. No, she said softly. I mean, maybe. I don't know anymore. She sat stiff in the velvet chair, her tiny hands clutching the edge of the table as if ready to bolt. Vincent's longtime housekeeper, Lena, hovered nearby, disapproving and confused. She needs a bath, Lena said the moment Amira was out of earshot. And food and clothes. What exactly are you doing, Mr. Rowe? I don't know, he replied honestly. She looked cold. Lena blinked. Vincent Rowe, the man who once fired a junior executive for crying during a board meeting, had brought home a child. By the third day, it was clear Amira wasn't going anywhere. Vincent Rowe had spent decades building towers, companies, and legacies, but now his days revolved around school pickups, soup preferences, and bedtime stories. It was absurd. It was beautiful. Amira, once timid and silent, had started laughing. Sometimes, she would run through the mansion halls like it was her own castle, wearing mismatched socks and talking to the paintings on the walls. She had questions. So many. Why is your house so big if you live alone? Did you always have that scar on your hand? Do you believe in angels? Vincent didn't always answer. But when he did, he told the truth. Or tried to. I didn't used to believe in anything, he admitted one evening. But then you came along. At the hospital, Vincent sat stiffly in front of a monitor as his oncologist, Dr. Patel, pulled up scans. Stage 4, the doctor said gently. Liver, it's spreading. Vincent nodded once. How long? A few months, maybe more. Depends. He didn't cry. He didn't flinch. He just stared at the screen. But that night, he stood outside Amira's bedroom, watching her sleep, her arm wrapped around a teddy bear he'd bought her from a roadside fair. And he whispered, I need more time. The first time Amira called him Dad, she didn't mean to. It slipped out during a school pickup, when she ran into his arms, nearly knocking over his cane. He froze. She did too. I, I meant Vincent, she mumbled, backing away, but he smiled. A small, tired smile, and gently held her hand. No, he whispered. You didn't. From that day forward, the word hung in the air like music, tentative at first, then real. But beneath it all, the clock ticked louder. Vincent's health declined faster than expected. He had good days, ones where he and Amira would lie in the backyard staring at clouds or read books by the fireplace. And he had bad days, ones where the pain became so sharp he couldn't hide it from her. One night she found him collapsed in the hallway. I'm fine, he lied, wincing. She knelt beside him, tears in her eyes. Don't leave me, she whispered. Please, not you too. That same week, Vincent sat with his lawyer. I want to adopt her, he said. She's not just some girl I took in. She's my daughter now. The lawyer hesitated. You're running out of time, Vincent. Then we better make it official fast. Back at the house, Amira decorated his room with stars she cut from paper, taped to the ceiling. Why star? He asked. So you don't feel alone when you close your eyes. Vincent cried for the first time in 20 years. The final winter came fast. Vincent Rowe, once the titan of River Spring, and Zrenia now spent his days in a hospital bed near the mansion's library, his favorite room. The doctors offered options, treatments, trials, pain management. But he refused everything except Amira's presence. She never left his side. She would curl up next to him and read aloud from the book he loved as a child, The Little Prince. Each night, her voice softened. Each morning, his grew weaker. I used to think I was building an empire, he whispered one day, his eyes barely open. But all I really needed was one person to love me back. Amira clutched his hand. I love you back, Dad. The world learned about them when Lena, the housekeeper, shared their story after Vincent passed quietly in his sleep. She told the press about the homeless girl who taught a dying billionaire how to live. But what made the world cry was the letter Amira wrote at his funeral. It was short. He didn't save me. He chose me. And because of that, I learned what it feels like to belong. I called him Dad. And that word was the first home I ever had.